going to be a lot of discourse on Twitter. It's going to be very over the top.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of with you guys. I don't think it was an absolute disaster.
No consistency with how this stuff works.
Yeah.
And so I think there's I feel like fans are deservedly getting annoyed about this stuff. He's just an absolute brute to play against. He's physically dominant. He's got the striking ability of Cristiano Ronaldo, the way he hits his knuckleballs that you've seen.
I can't.
No, he does.
Hello and welcome to Monday Vibes. Here we are, just the one camera today. We've got a few technical difficulties, so please do bear with us. But it's a little bit old school today. I'm in the building, everybody's saying, oh, you're running after them defeats. Nothing like, watching Manchester United lose 3-1 at the Emirates yesterday and then coming into a Monday Vibes today. But Zach Lab joins me, Doogie Critchley joins me. Boys, how was your weekend?
You're probably the happiest fan, right? After Sunderland.
What a result, man.
5-0. Annoyingly, I was in a church. I know you guys always joke, but I was at a wedding on Saturday, one of the final ones of the year.
How many have you been to this year?
Maybe 6 or 7. They are very good fun, but they're not very good for your body. But anyway, it was in the church getting score updates as they were going in. We were sort of 2-0 up within 7 minutes. It was brilliant. Much needed because they took Ross Stewart on deadline day as well, so it was really satisfying to get the win. But the wedding was good fun and the weekend was good. How was yours, Zach?
Good to hear it. Yeah, we'll get on to Chelsea, and then obviously yesterday I was just having a chill one. But I guess we'll start off with Manchester United.
Yeah, shall we?
You were there?
I think we should. Yeah, I was there.
For once.
Fortunately. Fortunate enough to get a ticket yesterday. And obviously Manchester United lost on the day, but I actually thought, do you know what? Like, there was a lot of hyperbole going on about Manchester United after the game, wasn't there? As there is with every Manchester United loss, every sort of incident is blown massively out of proportion, just because of the way Manchester United are run and the size of the club. But I thought United actually played well. Like, I'm sure I'm taking stick for this in the comments right now, but I think to go away to the Emirates is one of the hardest away grounds in the country right now. The way Arsenal are set up, it's extremely difficult. Going back to the back four, Gabriel coming back in, the more solid Arsenal shape. They're a really difficult team to beat. And United were 2 centimetres away from beating them at the Emirates. If the Garnacho run is held a millimetre of a second quicker, United end up going and win that game 2-1. Wasn't to be, and Arsenal obviously dramatic winner through Declan Rice, but I thought United built for the back pretty well. The midfield still looks a little bit suspect. I thought Onana was really good. Again, was taking a lot of stick in the Football Daily WhatsApp group yesterday, wasn't he? Like, unnecessarily, I thought, but I was pretty happy with United's performance. Again, not perfect, and the record now away from home against good sides is faltering on embarrassing, but I didn't think we were as bad as people were making out.
For 80 minutes, I think you guys were actually pretty decent. I said it several times actually in the chat, saying, I thought United's play from out of the back was really good. They were able to use Onana effectively in that and not necessarily go punting the ball long. It wasn't until the substitutions of Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans come on where that kind of passing out the back style very quickly went away, and it did end up being a long ball and then losing possession very quickly and so on and so forth. I think United, I saw some people saying that United's tactics of just kind of like playing on the counter and doing this throughout the game is boring or is not the huge United that we've seen, but I actually think that's the way United played now for a couple of years, and that's the way Erik ten Hag wants United to play as well, with how he's and
going away to the Emirates. I don't think there's any shame in playing as a little bit of a transition side, and
also it's the way to go at Arsenal.
Exactly. Arsenal have shown in recent years they can be vulnerable to quick transitions. We've seen recently that happen against them. They're extremely hard to stop having dominant possession. They are a very good on the ball side. Mikel Arteta has created and coached his way into a position where Arsenal want the ball, they keep the ball, and they are really, really dangerous with it. Man United are not yet at that stage. I think it's abundantly clear Man United are not at that stage yet. They're not as good as Arsenal, but people are going to want me to come on here and shout and moan. I didn't think United did an awful lot wrong yesterday. Wasn't perfect, but it was kind of fine.
I thought it was actually quite an interesting game in that there was 4 goals in it, but I didn't think there was that many clear-cut opportunities for either side, really. I think Man United probably's best moment was probably that Martial chance, and then Rashford had a block. But I didn't think Onana was seriously tested at any stage, really. But it was really, really entertaining, that end to the game. I thought it was quite telling how much space Declan Rice had for that
terrible
finish at the back
defending.
post.
It's criminal.
Do need to mention the fact that Gabriel was holding or yeah, definitely was making contact with Johnny Evans as well. Felt like people maybe over-egged that slightly
Soft.
as well. Like, he should be pushing him away. You know, they should have planned for it but earlier as well, because in the first half as well, Arsenal were really loading up on the back post and no one was really there. It could have happened a number of times. And then, yeah, a great counter-attacking goal for the end. I saw people making memes of Dalot as they would as well. What's he supposed to do? If he doesn't dive in there, he takes it with his left foot. It's just great centre-forward play from Gabriel Jesus. I thought it was a spectacularly good goal. But yeah, I was impressed by Højlund actually when he came on. Given the fact it was his Premier League debut, given the fact he's coming back from a stress fracture, given the fact he was playing against one of the most physical centre-backs in the league in Gabriel, he caused him a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. I didn't think it was a penalty on him. I actually thought all the decisions in this game were spot on.
Yeah.
I didn't really get Ten Hag's comments post-game. He was like, it wasn't offside.
Yeah, heat of the moment, wasn't it?
What was he talking about? And then he was complaining a lot about the Havertz, people were complaining about the Havertz decision as well. Again, I think Havertz makes contact with Wan-Bissaka, not a penalty. Didn't think Højlund was a penalty. I actually thought it was a really entertaining end to the game. And Man United fans, it's 2 weeks to sit on this. It's going to be a lot of discourse on Twitter. It's going to be very over the top.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of with you guys. I don't think it was an absolute disaster.
No,
Yeah.
I think given how United started the season last year, when people were again saying it's the worst of the worst possible situation, like they are now, I think United are in a better position than when they were last year. You've got to remember United go into the Emirates with 3 first-team players out injured in Rafa Varane, Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, and 3, especially in Luke Shaw and Varane, 2 very, very crucial components to a back 4 that's been pretty solid for Manchester United. I think Diogo Dalot, operating at left back, trying to cover Bukayo Saka, did a really good job on the day. It's not easy to control Bukayo Saka, and to the large part, he did it. Obviously, Saka had that one really, really good chance that should definitely have gone in the net. But I thought his all-round game was very good. I thought United's structure was pretty sound off the ball.
I actually thought it was one of Saka's poorer games as well, to be honest, because of Dalot being very, very good
Especially
at left back.
how well he played against United at the Emirates last year. He gave Luke Shaw a horrible game.
I thought some of the substitutions had good impacts. Garnacho looked very exciting, as he classically does coming off the bench. I think he is better as an impact sub than a starter right now, Alejandro Garnacho, and that's proven out in the numbers as well. And I think, like you said, just touching on Rasmus Højlund, thrown on with 20 minutes to go, and he was kind of being coached through the game. I was kind of fortunate enough to be sat right behind Erik Ten Hag, and he was extremely vocal with Højlund. He was talking to him about body positions. He was talking to him about using his hips and how to run the channels with Gabriel there, which was quite an interesting little insight into how top-level coaches with young players who have obviously not got a lot of team experience have to coach them through games. But I thought he did fine when he came on. You could see immediately he's got a good touch. The little flick for the Garnacho offside goal was delightful, but he's also extremely physical for a player so young, because Gabriel's an amazing defender and one of the more aggressive defenders in the league, and it was a real 50-50 battle, because Martial again was not good enough in that 70 minutes out there. Didn't offer enough, didn't hold the ball up well enough, didn't connect the kind of forward line together. That's a continued problem now. It feels like he's lost that burst of energy with that most recent hamstring injury.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like unless Rashford or Bruno do something special, there's just not enough goals in this Man United side. It's a major, major issue. And I thought, having taken the lead through that amazing Rashford goal, which Ben White, it's never normally something that I criticise Ben White for, but he just wasn't aggressive enough.
I thought it was
the other. He was a bit too relaxed.
Who was the defender behind Ben White?
Saliba.
It would have been
I
Saliba.
thought Saliba was actually more. I thought Ben White was okay. I thought Saliba was
gotta
weird.
get tighter.
Because to me, I thought
too much space.
I didn't understand why Saliba was just sitting behind Ben White.
Yeah.
Ben White is there. Go to the left.
In many ways, people will focus a lot on the space that Declan Rice was given, but you can't concede so soon after taking the lead as well.
Pathetic.
It was 35 seconds, and Odegaard's left with so much space at the edge of the box. He's amazing at that finish, and it was just absolutely.
Martinelli always finds him as well. Martinelli's always looking for that exact
Martinelli's
same
best game of the
pass
season, I
as
thought.
well.
Yeah.
It started quite slowly, but it was really good yesterday.
Yeah, so we talked about Man United quite heavily. Let's touch upon Arsenal, actually, because there were some excellent performances in there. Like you said, Martinelli, he's just such a handful. He's so hard to knock off the ball, that low centre of gravity. But I also thought Declan Rice, I know he got his goal, but throughout the game, as a tempo setter, as that lone six with Thomas Partey out for a couple of months, it appears like, just so much better. He just looks like such a natural at that level. And we've said that for so long, haven't we? Whenever he's played for England, he immediately steps up with the players around him. It just feels like it's going to happen. The one thing I am going to say is I just think Arsenal, again, looked way better with the 4. With Zinchenko playing as an inverted fullback, Ben White back at right back,
Gabriel back in the side.
Gabriel
Zinchenko was
back in the
playing right
side.
centre
They
mid
just
as well
look
when-
better.
Well on the ball. It was
They
like
just
odd.
look better.
Well, it makes sense because, I mean, the first few games of the season, they'd pretty much changed every core relationship in that side. Like, their fullbacks had changed, the centre-back pairing had changed, the midfield relationship had changed, the fullback and the wingers had changed, and everything just seemed a little bit out of kilter, or at least not as natural. Yesterday, I thought it was much more fluid and back to its best. But it was interesting hearing Declan Rice talk post-match that he feels much more comfortable right now in a 6 role than an 8 role. He says that's where his game's at right now, which I wanted kind of him to elaborate, or wanted the interviewer to ask him a bit more on that, because I thought that'd be really interesting. But yeah, he was sensational yesterday. Just physically dominates that midfield as well. And if you compare Casemiro's game right now to Declan Rice's game right now, it's miles apart.
What do we think of Kai Havertz? Because again, being in the stadium was the first time I've been in the stadium with Arsenal fans, watching him. Obviously, I've been in pubs and stuff with Arsenal fans, watching him in splits opinion there. Very much splits opinion in the stadium as well. The big miss in the first half, immediately fans were on his back. Then there was a touch where it went out of play. And it just feels a little bit like he's extremely low on confidence right now, Kai Havertz.
He's been low on confidence for 2 years now, realistically. I think half the thing for Arsenal fans is when they brought him in, it was I think every Arsenal fan questioned it. It was okay, we'll trust Arteta now. And they've seen, 4 games worth of Kai Havertz in this position. And it's interesting because it's funny that now he's playing in midfield, he's still judged upon goals. And scoring. I think the big one is obviously he had that huge chance where he scuffs it, ends up into a pass, and that maybe is a bit of a confidence thing. But in terms of like work rate, he is putting in the kilometers. Like at times he's running the most on the pitch. Like I don't think
across
Arteta
the first 3 game weeks he travelled more distance than any other.
I don't
Arsenal
think
player.
Arteta will be that bothered or that annoyed by how his game has gone. It's just that obviously I think sometimes when you spend the amount of money that they have spent on him, and with his previous history of playing up top for Chelsea, he's going to be judged on goals. When maybe that isn't quite the fair way to look at it. Has it been a successful transfer so far? Probably not. I see a lot of Arsenal fans saying that he probably needs to be taken out of the team to some degree. I don't know exactly if they want to see Vieira play in that position.
I think that hurts his confidence even more.
I don't think that works necessarily either. I think this is somebody that's going to take a bit of time. I'm not going to sit here and say, look, in 4 months' time it could be a huge success and it will look like idiots for saying it was it's been going wrong so far, because that doesn't look like the trajectory that it's on. However, I think if you're judging him on the amount of goals he scores, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. However, the chance that he did have, he probably should have done better with.
Yeah. I think the thing is with him is that I actually thought when he came in he was going to be more of a squad player, and Declan Rice was going to play the Granit Xhaka role and Partey was going to continue as the 6, where it seems like Mikel Arteta's idea was actually maybe not punishing Partey for his form towards the back end of the season, but definitely sort of evolving past him with Declan Rice. He's much more durable, Declan Rice. He's much more physical than Partey, and he's playing better than him at the moment, so I understand it. But Kai Havertz is now in this side, and he will be judged against Granit Xhaka's numbers of last year. And he's nowhere near, even contributing to the team in the same way mid-game than Granit Xhaka was as well. It will take time, but it did seem like the strangest transfer of the summer in many ways. But I think the fact that he can play as a 10, as a striker on the right, in midfield, makes him a useful addition. But at the moment, there is a stage where you need to start nailing down a position and actually really contributing to a team's success. And he's not doing that at the moment. But it is very early days.
It's only 4 games in.
Exactly.
Well, the other side of it, the thing is, though, is when you are the summer transfer, everybody is expecting in the first 6 games to have done something. And if, say, back after the international break, after that first game, if we are still sitting here saying, what is he added to this squad? I think fans are allowed to think, okay, maybe we go and give it a chance to someone else. Maybe we go and look at him being on the bench and getting me out of the limelight. Exactly.
I kind of disagree about Fabio Vieira, though. I probably would play him. I think he's been really, really good in the cameos he's played, particularly against Fulham. I thought he was excellent. Great pass for Jesus' goal yesterday. Quite an easy pass because there was lots of space as well. But I think he's got 2 assists in about 45 minutes so far, and looks so much better than he did last year, where he was really struggling for rhythm. So I think about putting Vieira in. Arteta's been pretty ruthless in every decision he's made, and there's no rush with Havertz.
Did you not see his analogy though for Havertz
about his wife? Yeah, it was a bit strange.
Which I thought was a bit odd. Essentially, of like, what was it essentially like?
I wore her down, basically.
Yeah, like it might not have worked straight away, but we kept trying, and eventually we got there, and now we're in love or whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen with Kai. Like, it's different if like Kai had just come from the Bundesliga and we were looking at this adaptation period. He's been in England now for 3 years. It never worked out fully at Chelsea, and now he's playing in this different position at Arsenal. It's sometimes when the facts are the facts, maybe it is what it is, essentially.
I think the biggest positive for
I don't know if
Arsenal,
I've explained that properly.
I know what you mean.
Works in my head.
I think the biggest positive for Arsenal is that, last season they started the season they're playing so well and picking up loads of points. This season it feels like they're not quite there, but they're still picking up points. Like, I think they're growing into the season, which I think is always a good sign for a title challenge.
City do that
and
sometimes,
I definitely think, City are classically rubbish starters, aren't they, really? And then grow into seasons. So I think it's a really good sign for Arsenal. Again, I thought they were good yesterday. The better team on the day, probably. And if you were giving it either side, you would say Arsenal probably deserved the win. My personal opinion. Maybe as a Man United fan, I thought a draw would have probably been a fair result.
I think but as a neutral, I would say Arsenal for sure.
I wouldn't know. I think a draw could have been foreseeable.
But one thing about Arsenal, I did talk about last week on Monday Vibes. They do need to sort out conceding so many goals at home. But they could have conceded 2 here. I think they've kept 1 clean sheet since early March at home.
Yeah.
There weren't loads of chances, but Man United did score a pretty straightforward goal from a defensive point of view. Could have scored another by a matter of inches. So that was a little bit of a concern.
I think over the last, basically like Fulham are the only ones with a worse home record at the moment.
In terms of goals conceded.
Yeah, in terms of goals conceded, which is a concern for sure.
I think we should just touch as well upon, after the game, of course, Erik ten Hag revealing that Jadon Sancho wasn't selected as part of the travelling squad because of training ground performances across the week. Jadon Sancho hitting back. Maybe we'll put Jadon Sancho's sort of thing on the screen now. His bite back that he put out on social media. What do we make of this?
Interesting strategy.
It's tough if he feels like he has been misrepresented. Like I feel like there's so many times within football we kind of feel like, we want players to stand up for themselves. We want players to come out and speak if they feel like they're being misrepresented. And if that's what Jadon Sancho feels like he is, then I think you do have to sit there and go, okay, and respect the fact that he's sticking up for himself. It's just whether... I think when I saw the quotes online, it seemed like it was blown out of proportion to what actually Erik ten Hag had done originally. It kind of felt like it was a throwaway comment in the press conference, whereas when you saw what happened online, it was very much like this big ordeal that like he'd made a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I just think this early in the season as well, just don't respond like that. It's just not a good strategy. You're not getting picked at the moment. And, Anthony's not playing particularly well in front of you. There is going to be minutes at stages. Responding like that when your manager says something as mundane as he was picked because he wasn't picked because he didn't train well enough.
And my biggest problem with this, as a United fan, if the manager doesn't think you're not training well, then it's not for you to say, I'm training well. You might think you are. But if the manager doesn't think you are, it doesn't matter what you think.
And he also hasn't been scapegoated by the manager. He might have been by some of the elements of the fans, but I think the manager's been seriously supportive last season. Sending him to the Netherlands so he could recover mentally and physically, putting him on an individual training camp routine. That's not someone that's given up on him. They want it to work. I just think his performances probably haven't deserved starting, to be honest.
I do think as well.
But have Anthony's?
Well, this is where it gets down to, I suppose.
But we don't know we don't see what Erik ten Hag's seeing in training every day with Anthony, do we?
No, we don't.
And we don't see what he's seeing every day with Sancho.
But
if he's seeing in training,
his guy, he's his guy from Ajax.
Maybe that's the case. But equally, if he's seeing in training every day Anthony working his nuts off in every single session, and Jadon Sancho not, maybe that's a reason that people aren't seeing.
But the same breath, maybe Jadon Sancho is. Right, like I feel it's hyperbole, right? It's like all hypothetical.
He might well be, but even if he is, just carry on doing that on the pitch.
That is your job.
And I don't think making a statement this early in the season is the right way to go.
I think
bizarre but to not be called onto the bench, right? When you're looking at that bench that United had, and you are the £70 million signing. And so rightly you're a bit pissed off.
I agree, but you don't come out publicly then to go back at the manager.
I just think we can't have it both ways. I feel personally like if we want footballers to be open and to express how they're feeling and all that, like we then can't, when they do it, be super
ways of doing it.
I think there's also everyone wants footballers to express themselves in public and be entertaining and be interesting, etc. But saying you're being scapegoated by the club is a big step. That's getting into sort of Cristiano Ronaldo territory.
Maybe it's just how I feel. Honestly, maybe it's how I feel.
I've got to say as well, like. Does he have enough credit in the bank to say that he's been scapegoated by the club?
Anthony had a better season than him last year.
Like, he's come for an awful lot of money, and I think there is a really good footballer in there. He's very talented. There's no denying that. But, when you're coming out and you're going to have a public battle with the manager, you better have enough credit in the bank that the fan base will give you, when Ronaldo came out,
sure.
when
Everyone
Ronaldo
has
came
lost.
out and did it,
Everyone has lost against Ten Hag.
there's like when Ronaldo came out and did it, he as much as Ten Hag was praised for that, there was an awful lot of fans that were saying, look what Ronaldo's done. Look at what he's done for this club. Look what he's done across his career.
There's still people that bring him up every time you lose.
With Jadon Sancho coming out against his manager, who's he doesn't have the Ronaldo backing. He doesn't have the credit in the bank with the fan base or people like that to come out and go to war with the manager. I don't think there's only going to be one winner in that situation. United have just backed Erik ten Hag with another £150 million after £150 million the summer before. There is only one winner in that situation, and it's not going to be Jadon Sancho, I'm afraid.
But maybe it's what leads to Jadon Sancho getting a loan move elsewhere, and that
the windows will close. So where's he going to go? Saudi?
Could do.
I can't see it. I think it was just there was just no need for it, man. Just get your head down and work hard. But let us know what you think about the Jadon Sancho situation in the comments below. Should we go to Burnley? Tottenham?
Yeah.
I think we should talk about Tottenham because hats
happening.
off to Ange, flying at the moment, doing really well with that squad, aren't they? Really good performance again after going 1-0 down.
Madison just looks incredible, man.
He does.
He's just ridiculous. I remember. I think we said it before. It's probably going to be one of the bargains of the window, to be honest. Especially for that fee, and especially what you saw their midfielders going for after he transferred too.
In the league, he's currently
ridiculous.
first in the league for passes into the box, for expected assists, second in the league for shots on target, goal creating actions, and third for progressive passes.
Yeah,
this is
It's
a
an
guy
alright
that's
start.
flying.
it's not bad. It's not bad. The only thing that obviously takes him, that could drop him down quickly, is if he picks up an injury, right? Which
he always does. Madison's body
He's got
classically
groin
has.
issues.
And what's just so much fun to watch him. He's just been given this free role where he'll pick up the ball next to the centre back, drive with it, pass it. Then you find him just behind the striker. He's having so much fun playing for Spurs right now, which is really nice to see. And a Spurs side which, you know what? He's not the only one that's looking really impressive.
They're super likeable.
They really
The
are.
Spurs team, aren't they?
Really are.
Really.
I think they're most neutrals' favourites now. I mean, they are really fun to watch. There's a really solid base there as well. There's some great legs in midfield. Udogie tucking in as well. The technical level of that team seems to have improved so much, and I think that is a matter of freedom, given by the manager as well. But they've also recruited some excellent players in the last 2 years or so.
Vicario looks
Weren't
right?
Well, I actually want to say, look, I think there is definitely a video out there of me saying I'm not so sure about Vicario. He's been really impressive. Honestly, he's been really impressive.
85% save success rate.
But also been decent with the ball at his feet as well. Played the way they want to play their football. I think he had one. What was the first game they played? Brentford. He looked a little bit shaky.
Nervous.
Since then, he's really improved. It looks a lot more dominant. Looks a lot more commanding. Will be interesting to see maybe their next kind of top 6 game per se, and to see how things work out on that side when they maybe test a little bit more than Burnley were able to. But he looks really good, especially with the fee they maybe paid for him. It does look solid.
And also, given the fact they have obviously lost Kane, and they only brought in Brennan Johnson on the back of that. If they got off to a bad start and had the struggles that they did at the end of the window, there'd be chaos at Spurs right now. But to be this calm, to be in the position they are, 2 points off Man City, is pretty remarkable. The only, blot on anyone's copybook right now, it's probably more reflective on him than the player, is just Richarlison's form. Son obviously starting down the middle
out the cup
was brilliant
and looked like that's the way. Honestly, place on that. We've said now for years. We've said now for years, right, that okay, maybe the development of Son is him playing through the middle as a striker after Harry Kane leaves. And obviously it's been one game, so let's not go too early. But it does look really exciting. It does look like that's what they've got to do. That's what they need to be doing for the future of their forward role. And then maybe Richarlison. It's bad for Richarlison to go
getting
back
minutes though.
Yeah, but it's bad for him to go back to a backup if Son becomes the main striker.
I agree, but this squad is so thin. There's nothing to it really.
But are you paying
if Van der Ven or Romero get injured, there's nothing going on back there. Or
if another midfield, if one of the midfielders gets injured,
Romero's goal, by the way.
I know.
Didn't know he had it in him.
If Basuma or Madison get injured, this squad is so thin, so they're going to be minutes being shared around for players like Richarlison, given they can play a maximum of 42 games this season.
Yeah.
Because they're already out of one cup.
Probably do need to touch on Burnley as well. Oh my word!
Yeah, let's
they
touch
are
on Burnley.
Easy to play against. There is so much space. Not picking up runners. Really, really bad standard of defending, and I just didn't see it coming in the way, because I actually thought for large parts of their first game against Man City, they really stopped them building up effectively from the back. I was like, Man City first game, not ideal. They did have that game against Luton postponed, which is a nightmare for them. If they got 3 points in that, completely different story. But at the moment, just far, far too easy to play against. And you actually look at the general quality of that squad, and maybe the gap between the Championship and the Premier League has just become so massive in the last few years, with the spending of the Premier League really going through the roof in the last 2-3 summers.
Do you not think they're being maybe a little bit naive with the way how they're playing? Right, they're still trying to play maybe the football they were playing in the Championship. Where, don't get me wrong, there have been teams that have come up, but when Brentford came up, they kind of adapted their style to also suit to playing teams that are much more ball dominant and so on and so forth. I still think they're being a little bit naive, and
there was
obviously
a lot of space. There was a lot of space.
And maybe that's what company just needs. There's this international break now to kind of reevaluate, see what they.
It's a lot of changes to the squad as well. They've lost a lot of effective loan players. I think it's only one time a promoted club has come up with 100+ points that's gone back down. The last promoted club to come up with 100+ points was Wolves. I think they finished close to the top half. Coming up. So I think it's just going to take a little bit of time.
Players, though. You are right. Like, who's the boy
Taylor Harwood-Bellis,
and who's the guy that went deadline day to? Was it Leverkusen in the end? Teller, yeah.
Ian Maatsen.
Southampton.
They tried to get Maatsen on deadline day. That left back situation remains a problem for them. Like, there's definite issues with that squad, and I think Vincent Kompany has got to adapt his way of playing a little bit. I know he's got incredible principles of how they play in the Championship with that heavy possession-based football. Some of the highest possession numbers we've seen in Championship history doesn't always translate to the Premier League. So I think he's going to have to adapt, but I think he will. I think he will adapt. But as for Spurs, looking great. And Big Ange, still super likeable. Should we go to the champions?
Yeah, why not?
Manchester City, 5-1.
Controversial call in this game. The Ake and the Kanji moment.
Let's start with that, man. Let's start with that, because that is shameful work by VAR, man.
Yeah, I think we have to start with that, because it was a really bizarre piece of officiating. I don't really understand the logic. Akanji was sort of looking a bit sheepish, like he knew he was in an offside position. Leno, clearly, it does affect the way he moves towards that ball rather. And down into the bottom corner it went. After that, Man City did produce some really nice stuff.
Yeah. They would have won anyway. But still, that doesn't really make a difference. No. Like, they should get that call right, and it will not always be the case that they're going to win anyway. So I think there should be an apology about that call for sure.
I don't know about you guys. Do you not feel like since the start of the season the officiating's been really poor, like poorer than normal?
I think it has been a bit up and down. I think the fact that went to VAR and then it still wasn't referred.
Like the consistency of it, right? So like the call to not give a penalty for Havertz, which I do think is the right call, but then penalties that have already been given this season. Like I can understand why Arsenal fans are annoyed if we're looking at the consistency of how things are happening. Like there's the number one thing I've always had about officiating and refereeing these decisions in VAR is for VAR, let the referee who's officiating the game make the decision. And two, the consistency around games. Because how is it fair that one game is refed in one way and the other game is refed another way, in a more stricter way?
Well, I think one of the worst calls the weekend as well was that Ward-Prowse handball against Luton in the final few minutes.
Goodness.
With Luton really on the offensive, like had stuck in that game just about. And just didn't get that. Obviously, a few years ago, that would never have been a handball. But given what we've seen in the last couple of years,
but then Lewis Dunk this season was given a handball for his. This is what I mean. There's just no consistency with how this stuff works. Yeah. And so I think there's I feel like fans are deservedly getting annoyed about this stuff. And even in lots of games, it's happening. I feel like in every single game at the moment, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is. But let's not discredit Man City's win here because it's very impressive. 5-1 against Fulham. I know it was João Palhinha-less Fulham. He obviously didn't get his move to Bayern Munich, but he's going to come back into the squad. And his brother was talking about, wasn't he, saying that it's not over, the move to Bayern. It's just been delayed, so it looks like that'll probably happen in January anyway. But Fulham have now got time to think about who they want to sign as a replacement at least. And without him in the side, they are going to be more vulnerable, and City just kind of take advantage, don't they, of any kind of weakness.
Well, Fulham especially, like obviously losing. If Paulinho had gone as well, it would have been a really bad summer, considering they lost their main goal scorer in Mitrovic, who has not just been their main goal scorer, but been the guy for the last 4-5 seasons. He has been the way they play their football. He has been essentially the guy up top that they are always trying to create chances for. And look, I think Vinicius has just not really cut made from the same cloth, and Jimenez, we've just not seen the same striker, unfortunately, since that injury. So there are, I guess, kind of worrying times maybe for Fulham post January if they do lose Paulinho. But as you mentioned, bit of time to think about it. But as a City, I mean, it's frightening, as we mentioned earlier, that City normally start the league slowly. And they are already looking exceptionally well, despite, I guess, having injuries to Kevin De Bruyne.
Haaland and Alvarez's little connection. I've got some numbers in front of me here. They've started 16 games together. In those games, Alvarez has got 15 goal involvements. Haaland's got 21 goal involvements. I mean,
he's got it all.
That
Julian
is
Alvarez
just
is
an incredible
impressive.
partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Haaland's now scored 5 Premier League hat-tricks. I think the record's 12. How many Premier League games has he played? I think he's back 38.
35, yeah.
So absolutely insane. I think he's on track to break the Premier League record for hat-tricks in 100 games, or just after 100 games, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, Alvarez is just a really complete player. He's got absolutely everything to his game, and it's just taken to European football. He touched the World Cup stage, so naturally nothing phases him, and I think he's just got everything.
Yeah, he absolutely does. I mean, Erling Haaland just looks scary again, doesn't he?
We've spent a whole year now talking about this. Like, you just don't have the words to describe this guy. We've never seen anything like it in the Premier League before, of just a goal-scoring machine. It's freaky to the fact that he's now scored the exact same amount of goals in the exact same way as he did last season in his first
2-0-1-3.
He's so tough to stop. And he's just improving. I just think he's going to get better and better. And working under Pep Guardiola, if he starts to help him develop his creativity and stuff like that, which I don't think he doesn't need. That's not the way he plays. But if he does, then just he could easily become the best goal scorer we've ever seen, if not already.
Underrated start. I think Kovacic has started really well in a City shirt as well.
So natural in there, isn't he?
Easy.
So natural. Looks like he's been playing for City under Pep for a decade. Let's go to the next game then. You wrote this one, Jalab. We mentioned it at the top of the show. Chelsea 0, Forest 1.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I feel like I said it a few times. I feel like I've seen that game. I think I said the same thing against
the whole of
West
last
Ham.
season.
It felt a very similar game. It felt like a very similar game to last season. There were chances that Chelsea should have taken better. It was very much just one mistake that led to the goal. Chelsea, I think, defended pretty well for the majority of the game. I think what they struggle with...
Scoring goals?
This season, Chelsea are creating much better opportunities. I think, if you look at expected points and expected goals, Chelsea are really underperforming in expected goals, and by expected points should be third in the league, which obviously doesn't take into account everything that happens in a game. But it's just the second you concede such a sloppy goal, and someone like Nottingham Forest are more than happy to then sit back. Chelsea for years now have had no idea of how to score a goal against a team that sits back against them.
Yeah, low blocks.
With no Reece James, and then a whole attack of players that have no idea how to play with each other yet. And you're subbing on Cole Palmer. Madueke's on the right wing. Mudryk comes on as well. These are guys that are playing in the exact same positions, but are all just occupying random spaces, and there's no idea of what to do. You give the ball to Enzo, and Enzo's looking up, being
there's a little
what
bit,
is the idea?
There is a little bit of discourse developing though, isn't there, amongst the Chelsea fan base about the 5 to the 4? I know that you don't necessarily agree with it, but
Chelsea fan base and discourse has been the whole thing for about 7 years now.
There is a lot of chat, isn't there, developing around Chelsea of this 4-back with Colwill playing as a left back is how it's being set up. And Chilwell was a left winger, and we saw Thiago Silva having to come out on Instagram, didn't we, to defend that system as a 4 and a 5.
Yeah,
the narrative around Chelsea at the moment feels more like, Poch, why don't you just play Chilwell as a left back?
Yeah, I think it's understandable. I don't know whether he is looking at a point of view of, we need to make sure we're defensively astute first.
But against Forest at home.
And then go from there. But Chilwell is playing left wing, and people might go back and go, okay, why don't you then go and play Raheem Sterling left wing and Madueke right wing? I think that is a fair enough argument. Mudryk hasn't shown enough over he had one good pre-season game, and everyone just said he should be starting week in, week out. He needs to get better. He needs to get stronger.
It's hard for him though, isn't it? It's going to be hard for him.
100% he's not playing.
The way he plays, to come on for the last 20 minutes against a deep block in Nottingham Forest and say, unlock it. That's not Mudryk's game, is it? I would like to see Mudryk get a few more opportunities from the start, given he's cost so much money.
Sure, but he needs to also warrant that, right? He's just come back from an injury.
Yeah.
Which before this, he wasn't in the squad because he was out injured. So he's just come back. You can't just throw him in straight away. This system that, I always find it so interesting with systems where people expect them to work like that.
No, it definitely
takes time to develop how things happen.
But you weren't playing like this in pre-season, were you? Or were you?
I thought we weren't, but then apparently it seems like we were in some way. Like Chilwell was basically bombing forward in every single avenue, but it felt like he was more of a left back. But there's just so many changes that have happened. Like, it's gonna take time. Like, if Caicedo, I actually thought Caicedo had a good game. If he doesn't take the one bad touch that leads to that error, we don't look at it. This game could be different. Like, it's a fantastic
pass
ball
by Awoniyi for the legs of Silva.
And credit has to go to Forest. Like, Forest, you guys, Manchester United,
they're a tough team on transition.
They're
a tough team on transition
to score lots of goals against. Jackson should do better with his chance. Obviously, that Raheem Sterling is really well. It's a stretch, people
leaning back, isn't it? Like,
I think that chance is one that
horizontal when he hits it.
I think that chance is one that people think is easier than it is, but it's actually a little bit tougher.
His body position.
And he's, I think some people, he had a nice start to pre-season. Obviously, hasn't happened in the Premier League for him just yet. But he's got 4 expected goals. Like, it shows that he's getting into the right opportunities. He's making the right things. But right now, when I look at this Chelsea side, there's a lot of work that just needs to happen in terms of relationships. You mentioned it earlier about Arsenal. Like, there are times where I saw an example where Jackson, I can't remember who's playing the ball over. I think it might have been Disassi, or it might have been Gusto or someone, where he basically made this kind of fake run, but it fooled Gusto, and he played the pass towards a fake run. It was him then going over to him and being like, no, when I do this, that means I'm going to do this in return. So there's a lot of like relationships still building. It's so early on in the season. I think by the end of September, early October, I think it's a little bit easier to call and see where we are.
You'll be much better. I think the issue that you've got is that the amount of money in such a short space of time. That's like the issue, isn't it?
But when you spend about, when I have no,
everybody's going to be on to you for everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's no sympathy.
And deservedly so, like 100%.
Neutrals will 100%. Love it. Absolutely love it. If Chelsea are in 10th in October, Twitter is going to be on fire.
They're not going to be 10th in October, surely.
No, I don't think they will. But I think, most people in pre-season, before a ball was kicked, probably had them 6th or 7th. I think they probably look on track for 6th or 7th. There is so much work to do there. It will take time, but I don't think this is going to be the season for them. And if they're outside of top 4 contention by October, November, Chelsea fans will be furious.
Yeah, no, they will. And I think Poch has got an awful lot of rope, isn't he? And it's super early days.
If he gets given the same rope as Potter, I think he'll be absolutely fine.
He will.
It's just about
back him to the hill.
I completely agree. I just think it's going to take time, and football's such a fickle sport where we lose to Forest, maybe first game back. I can't think of who we're playing right now. We win and everyone changes their tune about how this is the season.
His injury is also massive. I think he's someone with because a lot of the signings haven't really done a lot for other clubs, really, to that level. And Kunku is someone that probably would have hit the ground running, given that his exposure in top-level competition.
Everybody else is just is like a protege almost.
Exactly, like a project player. But the worrying thing was hearing at the weekend. I don't know what the source was on this. I saw it on Twitter. Maybe it's not true, but supposedly they turned down James Maddison because he wasn't the right age profile.
I think it was Matt Law, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like that. What are you doing? That is a bonkers decision. £40 million rather than £40 million on Cole Palmer or someone like that. I mean, I just don't understand it.
Yeah. Few flowers to Forest as well. We just briefly mentioned them, didn't we? Fantastic goal. There was also a bit of skill. Didn't result in a goal. Nearly did. From Ante Alanga in a far corner where I think it was on Mudryk and Madueke. Who were defending. Just sensational bit of skill. To get away from them. And I think Forest did, again, lots of business in the summer window, but to get Sangare.
They're going to get better. They're going to get a lot better.
To get Sangare through the door, and I know they've lost Brennan Johnson, but I think Alanga is a fantastic player, and I think Callum Hudson-Odoi is only really upside for that fee.
Gibbs-White was actually kind of playing where Johnson was as well against Chelsea, which was an absolutely fine thing. Obviously, they got a decent amount of midfielders in as well.
Yeah.
They were honestly really strong, defended really, really well.
It's the first time they've won away in a long time, isn't it? Yeah. I'd be a little bit concerned that we really didn't test Matt Turner at all.
But overall, Forest fans I think had a very happy Saturday. That's for sure.
To get Sangare, who just qualified for the Champions League group stages with PSV, playing really well against Rangers. To get Nicolas Dominguez, who was wanted by Milan, who was wanted by Brighton, they are going to get very much better in a couple of months' time.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brighton then. You mentioned them there. I mean, this was a battering against Newcastle. I watched the game, and Newcastle were just nowhere near the races. Brighton, very, very comfortable throughout the entire 90 minutes. Just so good on the ball. Billy Gilmore was awesome. Awesome.
Problem for years. Finally come in.
Just I thought he was. I know that Ferguson got his hat trick, but I thought Billy Gilmour was actually the best player on the pitch. Just dictated the entire tempo of the match. So calm when pressed, and Newcastle do press you, but Dunk and even is it Van Heck? Really solid at the back. Like Brighton are so good, man. I know they had that little blip against West Ham, but that's all it was, a fluke.
I mean, Ferguson, I think, has now hit 10 Premier League goals. I think he's averaging a goal every 115 minutes. Pretty remarkable. It feels like, and I don't mean to overhype him too much, but you know when you just see a young player come onto the stage, and I remember seeing it with Wayne Rooney, I remember seeing it with Michael Owen, like they just look already better than pretty much every Premier League player, and they're 18. It is genuinely staggering. I think he looks incredible.
I've been doing this for like 9 months now about Ferguson. I just think he's incredible. Like, he really is. He's got every asset to his game. I actually think his passing is a lot better than people even realise as well. The idea that he can improve in certain aspects of his game. He's just an absolute brute to play against. He's physically dominant. He's got the striking ability of Cristiano Ronaldo, the way he hits his knuckleballs that you've seen.
I can't.
No, he does though. Like, have you seen the training shots he takes?
Yeah,
like,
he does smack it, but
he's ridiculous. He's somebody that, like, who's the Brighton guy? I forgot his name. Top owner.
Tony Bloom.
Tony Bloom must be sitting there going, how many zeros should I put on the end of this one for him? Because it is just
150 million.
I think at least the guy's
Caicedo
I think 150 is a lot.
Caicedo's just gone for 115.
If he has a season,
I think it'll be around
if he has a season where he scores 15 or more and gets more minutes than he did last year, he could be costing.
If Caicedo's gone for 115 million
and
pounds, and Evan Ferguson signed a new contract last summer and goes and scores 15 goals at 18, he's going for more than 115 million pounds in Tony Bloom's eyes.
A game where, against Newcastle as well, to perform like this, you're not playing against like
the second goal is just outrageous. He just strokes it into the back of the net.
He made Nick Pope look a mess. He made Nick Pope look bang average.
Nick Pope had a bad game,
and he really is
bad game.
Any game for me where Billy Gilmour and Evan Ferguson are playing well for Brighton, I'm more than happy.
Too much space, but troubling times for Newcastle. Look, they have had a difficult run of fixtures. City, Liverpool,
really
Brighton.
Difficult.
That's horrible. But at the same time, they should have beaten Liverpool. They were playing against 10 men. They were on top in that game. They're outclassed by City, but this was not a good performance by Newcastle.
No, they look really tired. Newcastle already, and we're only 4 games into the season, and this is a side who
group kicks off as well.
So renowned for their pressing ability. Just so they looked a little bit flat with them. I think worrying signs if Shah did injure himself. It was pretty unclear whether it was cramp or whether it was a hamstring problem. With Botman out,
this is what we said though. Like, I remember we said that, like, we were always kind of like, Newcastle could be really good this year, but if they get injuries, their depth isn't amazing. And I remember Newcastle fans being in the comments being like, "What are you guys on about? You got no idea." And then have a look at what's happened so far. It is going to be slightly concerning if this kind of rate continues. Obviously, they have Dan Burn who can fit in at centre back, but then that means you're obviously playing Matt Targett, who's slightly different, or you're playing Lewis Hall, who is fantastic, but doesn't have necessarily Premier League experience. It's going to be maybe another team that probably this international break's come at a nice time for them to kind of collect themselves and see where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, the fixtures have been rock solid as well. Like, I think they are still a
Brighton,
good team.
Man City, Villa.
Yeah, we saw it.
Villa, obviously.
We saw it against Villa. There is definitely a very good team in here. Alexander Isaac still looks sharp. I think the midfield just got, it got brightened. Sadly, like Brighton can do this to you, where they can just beat you up.
Newcastle also
they
really lost against the very big teams last year, but I did remember them getting battered by Aston Villa at one stage, and it felt kind of similar to that. Like, just a really off day. It happens.
Yeah, it does. And like I said, Brighton can just do that to you. They're that good under Zerbi. We should also talk about Liverpool because
that's good.
Looking, do you know what it is? We said it the whole time, didn't we? The forward line is just unreal. It's like it'll just kill you, that forward line. Like Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez,
so nice.
Diaz on the left, Szoboszlai joining in.
Yeah. I said to Dougie, it reminded me of the Thiago's goal where it kind of like goes down and up. Maybe not as nice as Thiago.
It does. It like hits the ground,
but it's so classy, man.
Like the other day that his coaches when they were younger made him wear shoes that were boots that were too small for him
because they like small feet.
Apparently smaller feet means you have better ball control. So he wears like size 7 shoes.
Yeah, he is.
Sounds
really
painful.
Sounds
painful.
But yeah, I think Liverpool just look really, really solid.
It's Trent's best game as well.
Don't they?
Trent was really good.
Shame that he came off injured. Trent. I wonder how bad that is. I think Klopp said he's going to have a scan on the hamstring, didn't they? Probably will pull out the England squad, you'd imagine, off the back of that. And that would be a big problem for Liverpool if Trent was to get injured.
Yeah.
Because, don't really have cover at right back naturally. Anyway.
Darwin looks sharp as well.
Yeah, Darwin
Caused the
does
Matty
look
Gash
sharp.
own goal. I mean, he
has an incredible.
Hits the bar as well.
He's just so unique, Darwin, isn't he?
He does this thing. I've never seen
The
anyone
miss of the back
head the
post.
ball, but while sitting
I
in the air at a
I
90-degree
thought he
angle.
went with his foot.
Yeah, he doesn't. He like heads
But
it.
it's just.
But it's incredible. I mean, he has this like chaos about him. I think you said it about there are certain strikers out there who have this chaos energy where even though they don't have bad games, they always have the ability, because essentially they have no idea what they're going to do. So the defender's got no idea what they're going to do. And Darwin Núñez has that in abundance. And like, if he is able to, we said it for, for about a year now, if he's able to hone in and really kind of like become more elite, like he's going to be some striker. He really will be.
Well, I mean, he's underperforming his XG so much last year. If he gets back to the sort of normal level of his finishing, he'll get 15 Premier League goals.
It feels like he's always going to be an XG underperformer.
Do you think?
Núñez.
I mean, his final year at Benfica,
Yeah.
he was the biggest overperformer.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's happened, because like when chances appear, it feels like at best it's 50-50. You know what I mean? It
But do
could
you
come
not
off the
think
right
because-
side of his foot, the left side of his foot, but he's just so dangerous to get into those
That's what I
positions.
mean. Yeah, like he's because of how he plays, like he's able to get himself there to kind of
Yeah.
have that.
But
Does that chance happen?
He's not a natural finisher,
it's
is
not
he?
him?
He's not a naturally calm finisher in front of goal.
He's
It
completely
feels
different to
panicked.
someone like a Ferguson or a Haaland.
It feels like
Or a
what's
Son.
going on in that moment. But
Mm.
you know, like the finishes against Newcastle were
But
just exceptional.
but
So you can't take anything away from him.
But I feel like that can kind of come in time. Do you not think? Like sometimes over years of like becoming a bit more used to the system, becoming like, especially sometimes I don't think he knows whether he's going to be in or out the squad or in or out the starting 11. Like if he has a little bit more of, there was parts last year where he did have consistency, but if he does kind of get a little bit more trusted, I think you can
Yeah, I want to see
have
him
him a bit
start
more
more.
focused.
I want to see him start more.
Yeah.
What that means for Gakpo, I don't know where he plays
Casillas
necessarily,
is
with
always a
Szoboszlai and
bench
McAllister and Gravenberch also occupying midfield areas now.
It feels like one or the other with Gakpo and Núñez.
I think Gakpo will
essentially.
play in a lot of the bigger games as well, where they need to retain possession more. But I mean, Núñez against the smaller sides at Anfield, yeah.
And Núñez showed right against Newcastle, he's not a bad impact sub to have.
Oh, definitely.
Even against Chelsea when he came on as well, like he can create, or he can have something happen out of nothing.
It's a good. I mean, it's just great options to have.
Mm.
The only area they don't have good options is right wing, really,
And right back
Yeah.
and right back
behind
yeah.
Trent.
What
And
about
centre back.
with Villa? I guess because another game.
It's fine, man. I'm not worried about that. Like Villa, like Anfield and St James's Park, the two hardest places to go in the league, really. Like in terms of atmospheric moments.
Mm.
Like obviously the Etihad's a nightmare to go in Emirates as well, but you know, outside of the two best teams in the league, those are the two worst stadiums to go to try and get a result, really, aren't they?
That's what Villa fans
3-0
say as well.
against
They weren't actually as
Liverpool,
bad as
like,
they thought they were.
It is what it is, man. Like, I don't think Emery will be chalking that one up at the start of the season and going, "This is a must-win game." Like we got to try to get anything out of that game they'd have been happy with, and they, on the day, were just beaten up by a much better Liverpool side. Liverpool are better than Villa.
Switched to a back three as well, with Cash playing that, or continued with that system, so Cash could play that role. Pau Torres, a bit shaky.
Yeah,
I've said that a few times now.
but again, I think he's gonna look shaky
It's his
when they're
style,
not in ball dominant games, where where Villa can go in there and dominate the game against a smaller side, and Pau Torres can get on the ball and pick passes through the line and use that progressive passing ability he's got. That's when he's going to look good. When he's got to do an awful lot of defending, he's probably not going to look as good as Tyrone Mings.
Yeah,
when he's
definitely.
in that role. Mo Salah, by the way, we're all in agreement he's not going to leave.
Oh well, Klopp came out and he was
2 days
like,
later.
It
not
can't.
happening.
It can't happen.
Yeah, not
surely.
happening.
The thing is like,
I still say if a £200 million bid came in, you sell him. I personally am of
but
that
do you not
belief.
think they get 200 million next summer?
No, because he's got 1 year left.
I mean, Saudi Arabia.
No, he hasn't. He signed a new contract this summer, didn't he? Or was it just an
He's
extension?
got 1 year left, I think.
From
after
next
this
summer.
season.
I think Saudi would pay whatever. They paid,
His contract
they
ends in
paid like
2025.
£90 million for Neymar, who's older, more injury
Well,
ridden,
Who had 1 year
and
left.
less quality at the
I
moment.
think next year they'll come in with. They might come in with one. I don't think they
100
hit
mil.
two. I don't think they hit 200.
No.
But they
Salah-
might come in with 120.
But even 100
look at
mil.
the physical condition of Salah. I think he could go on for years.
Oh,
I don't see him slowing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It would
also,
be. It would
Like,
still
he
be a
doesn't
shame
drink.
to lose.
He's
him.
like in incredible shape. He was never injured.
yeah.
He's going to play until he's like 36.
I just
But
think it's 100 million
is
pound
200
drop.
million. Like
But I
this
wouldn't
is
sell
what
him
I'm
next summer. Is my point. I don't see his
even
levels
for
dropping a lot.
120 million pounds.
And he's
probably
saying,
not.
I'm not signing a new contract.
Dukes, 120
Seriously.
mil at 32 years
Salah
old.
is so crucial, and he's going to
But-
age.
but if he
in my
said-
opinion, at the moment, he looks like he's going to age really well.
But if
I
he-
don't see the point in really selling him.
But if he says, I'm not going to sign a new contract,
Liverpool already have quite a lot of cash kicking around. They bid 150 million pounds for Caicedo. They could continue to rebuild this squad without selling Salah. You sell Salah, I think you take so many steps back.
but you only get
But-
one more season of him.
I don't know. I don't think he's if he's refusing to sign a new deal, maybe. But
Okay.
I really don't think it's worth considering, even unless it's a ridiculous fee.
Okay, let us know what you think in the comments below. Just before we wrap up, we're going to very quickly touch upon Palace versus Wolves
Yeah.
because Odsonne Edouard at it again.
The double.
Hey,
The double.
it
Chris
took a- it
Hamill's
took a
hype
few years,
finally living up
but it
to
landed.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably Eze is actually
Yeah.
the guy we need to
Just
talk
what a
about.
player.
He just continues to impress. I saw actually it came out. Fabrizio said that apparently the £60 million bid that City made on deadline day was actually not true. That
Well,
nothing
I
like
was
that
with
did
him on
happen.
deadline day, Eze. And I
So
tell
you didn't see the
I
text
can
come
tell you
through.
now, there was no even like hint of any sort of transfer being talked about. He was wandering about, finished training, spent an hour with us, like was very relaxed,
Yeah,
chatting.
he's always good
There
fun.
was no transfers in mind. £60 million sort of. Should I be travelling to Manchester? What's going on? Like
Mm.
nervousness.
I actually missed
Okay,
that. I didn't even
wonderful.
see those reports.
No,
so they
it was-
signed
it was
Mateus
not-
Nunes
so it was
and
not-
then bid
so-
for Eze.
It came out a few days after deadline day that this apparent bid had happened, and then yesterday I saw that it was absolutely said it was rubbish.
Instead of Nunes? Or
no,
No,
Wolves-
as well
Wolves supposedly.
as-
But it was rubbish anyway. It was apparently
it was
absolutely
definitely
rubbish.
rubbish.
Okay.
No, but this is Eze. Obviously, finally got his goal as well. I saw he's had 18 shots
Yeah.
so far in the league,
He'll score
and
plenty
without
more,
scoring. But yeah, just incredible. Like I feel like this is another year where we're going to see him continue to.
Yeah.
He will. I think next summer we're going
Big
to see
move
him
next
get
summer,
this
for
move.
sure.
Mm.
Maybe even January. Maybe even January.
It's
You
interesting
never know.
watching. I mean, Wolves are definitely more watchable than they've been in recent years as well. They're definitely creating more chances, but you just feel like they've lost a little bit of that defensive solidity, which has probably been their USP over the last few years. A little bit worrying. I don't know. I feel like Wolves. They've definitely got a much more mobile squad now. I think Neves and Moutinho, they've added a lot of legs in midfield. I think Gomez looked pretty good in this game. But yeah, just conceding quite a few goals now.
O'Neill's kind of had a better start to the league though than I thought he would.
Yeah.
Unlucky
They seem
against
to like him.
obviously
The players
Manchester
playing for him.
United.
Mhm.
He came in a tough situation, kind of all things considered. And he's done really well. I mean, whether he ends up keeping them up, only time will tell. And obviously, once the league properly starts kicking in, it gets a little bit tougher.
It's just conceding 3 goals away at Palace. They also had Max Kilman cleared one off the line.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little
Palace
too
don't
open.
score loads of goals. either.
Exactly.
Roy though,
Roy
Hodgson. Wow,
Roy.
happened?
7th in the Premier League.
Oh, 7th.
Oh, we
Fair.
love Roy.
3. He's not too far off of Spurs.
He was really
Liverpool,
disappointed after the game as well.
Flying.
City.
Yeah.
He's honestly, when I see a happy Roy Hodgson, I'm happy.
Remontada.
Flying, baby.
Saw
Yeah.
that fight in him as well.
He
Who was
really
he taking on the other day? Jadon Bogle.
Yeah, it was. It was. Just credit to him, man. Like, fair play to Palace. A nice result for them to pick up here, like going to the international break, high up into the table, especially obviously after the obviously rumours of Elise leaving, then him signing a new deal, but Zaha leaving, not knowing what they're going to do there, worried about how they're going to score goals, and so far,
Well, they're
they've
going to
been
be solid.
okay.
I mean, Lerma and Decore in the middle of the park.
yeah,
Wow.
really nice, really
Physical.
nice,
Yeah.
really nice.
All right, there we go. That was today's episode of Monday Vibes. Apologies, it was just the one camera today. Hopefully, we will get back to more cameras, but that could be 50-50. Let's see.
It's a story for another time.
Yeah, exactly. If you did enjoy this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Goodbye.